Vendors are important to companies. The vendors are those who provide the company services or who the company buy from. In this video, we will cover the following: a payables overview, how to create a vendor card, how to create a purchase invoice, how to create a purchase credit memo, process payment using the payment journal, reversals, corrections or posted invoices, then on application and reversal of vendor ledger entries. Lastly, we take a look at the report. To go to the payables area of the system, we click on Department, Financial Management, then the payables. Under the payables area, we can perform some actions. First, we create a vendor account. This is the vendor list, the numbers, the name of the vendors, and some other fields are displayed on the vendor list page. And on the ribbon, we have some actions we can also perform, like create a payment journal, ledger entries for this specific vendor, take a look at the statistics, create a purchase invoice. This is the statistic for the vendor: 2,000, 20,000. This is the balance, outstanding, orders, and this is the payments for this period, year, last year to date. So the statistics dialog gives us information about the specified vendor. Also, we can create a blanket purchase order, purchase return order, and on the navigate tab, price list and line discounts, among other actions. We can also specify dimension for this vendor. To create a new vendor, we click on new. If the vendor we're about to create is a domestic vendor, we can make use of the vendor domestic template. If the vendor is a foreign vendor, we can make use of the vendor foreign template or the EAO template. Let's make use of the vendor domestic template. So this fills in some values for us. We insert the name of the vendor. We can block this account. This is the last date that it was modified, the balance LCY and the balance due LCY. They are still new because they are just about to be created. And the document sending profile can either be default, email, and we can create other profile. We can also add a purchaser code to this, just like the salesperson code in the customer card. We can show fewer fields to have more view of our screen. Then we can enter the address of the vendor. Postcode, city, country, region code can also be specified in addition to all the other contact details we can provide. I minimize this. We can enter the VAT registration number for this customer if it is available, likewise the GL. Then the pay to vendor number. This comes in handy if the vendor we are paying to is different from the vendor that supplied the items or the services. We can also make VAT included to prices. Then the general business processing group, which essentially links the vendor to the appropriate GL account. Likewise the VAT posting group, which signifies how the VAT will be treated for this specified vendor. Then the vendor posting group, which links the vendor to the GL account through the control account of the vendor. Then we can specify the currency code, the language code. Then the application method, as said in the previous video, we can specify how payments are applied to this vendor, either manual or applied to oldest. The payment terms code for this vendor has been defaultly sent to current month, so payment is expected in the month in which invoice was made. Let's change it to 21 days. Then the payment term code, the way in which you pay this vendor, it could either be cash, check, any of these values can be chosen. although still modifiable in the purchase journal. Then the priority field. This comes in handy when we have limited funds to pay our vendors with. The vendors with the highest priority is suggested first for payment, followed by the vendor with the next level in priority. Then the preferred bank account, partner type, and we can also insert the cash flow payment terms code. Then if there's a corrected number, we can supply it. If the vendor has a picture, we can import the picture by clicking on the import action, then selecting the vendor. I can choose a vendor. Let's say this is the picture of the vendor. I click on open, so it brings the vendor picture here. Then on the right hand side, this is the fact box. You can easily see some details for this vendor. Because it's a new vendor, everything is still blank. Then move to the bottom of the page. You can see the history of the vendor, how many quotes the vendor we've made to the vendor, order invoices, return invoices, how many posted return shipments, and the likes. Then to the receiving fast tab, then the location code, we can specify where we want this vendor to always make the shipment to. Then we can click on OK to create the vendor. This is the newly created vendor Delta Core. I changed my filter from number to name. This is our newly created vendor. To create a purchase invoice for this vendor, I simply click on the purchase invoice, or I can come to my search bar and click on purchase invoice. For purchase invoice, it's always important to enter the vendor invoice number. The posting date, if it is different from the date that we are in, then the due date, this is calculated automatically from the payment terms code on the vendor card. Then the type of item or services we are buying from this vendor. Let's make use of the GL. Let's say we are charging a cleaning. This is the vendor that takes care of our cleaning. We type in the location, then the quantity. Since a service is usually one, then the cost excluding VAT. Then we can change the VAT product posting group. VAT 25 signifies 25%. Let's change this to 5%. And automatically the VAT is calculated below. If we want to give this line a discount, we can insert the percentage here. The VAT value has now been decreased. Then on the invoicing details, we can see the expected receipt date, the VAT business posting group. We specify how the VAT for this transaction will be handled. And the VAT account to post to. I won't fill in all the necessary details. We can post. Yes. Do you want to view the posted invoice? Posted purchase invoice? Yes. This is the invoice we just posted. We can also create a corrective credit memo, cancel this purchase invoice, or correct it by reversing the transaction. So we go back. Now we create an invoice from a purchase journal. To do that, We move back to the payables section. Then we open the purchase journal. Invoice. If we have an external document number, we can supply it. Then the vendor account. Then we enter the amount. So I post. So it says the external document number must be inserted for purchase line. This is representing the vendor invoice number. So I insert a value. Then I post. That has been successfully posted. Then to make payments for what we just invoiced, we make use of the payment journal. Documents, the posting date, document type, document number. Can enter an external document number if we have one. Then the account type should be vendor, because we are paying to a vendor for the transactions we just invoiced. Then we enter the vendor number, Delta core. You can simply enter the amount on this field or click on the apply entries. These are the existing invoice for this vendor. To apply this payment to a vendor automatically, I click on set applies to ID. Then I click on OK. But let's say we forgot to apply this payment to an invoice. How do we take care of that? Let's say the amount we entered for the payment is 10,000 and the balancing account is still a bank account. But we forgot to apply this payment to an invoice and we've already posted. So I post, how do we apply this payment to the invoice? We can do this through the vendor ledger entries window. So we go to the vendor ledger entries window. So this is the invoice 10,000 and this is the payment. Invoice minus 10,000, this is the payment 10,000. But the remaining amounts are both of the same value as the original amount. This means that it hasn't been applied. That is, the payment hasn't been applied to an invoice. To apply the payment to an invoice, I simply click on apply entries. Then I choose the payment to apply. Then I click on set applies to ID. Then post application. Document number and posting date should be specified. The application was successfully posted. So if I come to the remaining amounts, they are both saying 0 nil nil. This is simply how we apply payment to invoice that was not automatically applied. Now we create a purchase credit memo. We can create a purchase credit memo by clicking on new, selecting the vendor we want to create the purchase credit memo for. We make use of customer 10,000 this time around. Then on the action tab, we click on get posted document lines to reverse. Then we select the line, the invoice line we want to reverse. Let's choose this. Click on OK. So the lines are now populated. I minimize this. So we can now post the purchase credit memo. It says the vendor credit memo must have a value in the purchase header. This is just like the vendor invoice number. It must always be specified. So we insert a random number, then we post. Do I want to view the credit memo? No. So we've successfully posted a purchase credit memo. To take a look at the transaction we just posted recently, we can come to the GL register under the history, then select the line we want to take a review of. The vendor was debited and the back was credited with the value of minus 10,000. We can also reverse and correct invoices. To reverse and correct invoices, we can either click on the posted purchase invoice or come to the navigation menu and click on posted document. Then we go to posted purchase invoice. So to create a correction, we can either correct, cancel, or create a corrective credit memo. Now, we perform on application and reversals of vendor ledger entries. To do that, we go to the vendor ledger entries. Then we simply click on apply entries. Then we on apply. We could also reverse the total transaction. To reverse a transaction, we go to the ribbon and click on reverse transactions. Then we click reverse. Then yes. So we successfully reverse the transaction. Lastly, we take a view of reports in Payables, one of which is the summary aging analysis for vendors. Specify the starting date, the period length, and show amounts in local currency. We can also modify this filter as we desire. We can enter the range of vendors we want to run the aging analysis for. If we leave it blank, it will bring in all the vendors into consideration. So this is the aging analysis for our vendor for this period. We can also run the trial balance for our vendor. Then I enter the date field. From the 1st of December to the 31st of December 2018. So this is the trial balance for our vendors for the period, and it is grouped based on the posting group: domestic, EU, and foreign. And this is the total in local currency. I escape to close the report. Then we can also take a view of the vendor list report. A preview, leaving out the filter blank. So this is our vendor list, specifying the invoice description, the discount code, payment times, payment method, and their priority. In this video, we've taken an overview of payables. We've also created a vendor card, posted payment using the payment journal, also created invoice using the payment journal. We've also ran some reports.